Greetings from Sweden, and welcome to Everyday Mystic, an aid to your liberation. My name is David, and today I'm going to talk about a fundamental aspect of our human condition, of our human experience. And it is a fundamental aspect of our experience that ought to call for some humility when we interact with other people, when we engage other people in discussions. And of course, what I'm talking about here is self-evident. Just like it's also self-evident that we only have access to our own subjective interpretations of our sense data. We can never get past this. And both of these things are important for today's topic, as I will show you a little bit later. The big point is that, do we really think consciously about this? When you engage another person in a conversation, do you truly think of that this person has a whole different subjective view of the world? They also only show the side of themselves that they display outwards. You don't know what they are thinking about, what they fantasize about, what drives them, what experiences they have had that have made them reach the conclusions that they have with regards to their lives. And you can also think about this a little bit further. Because, for example, we are very malleable when we are children. The values that are instilled in us when we are little kids and the beliefs and the views often follow us throughout the rest of our lives. I'm not saying that you cannot change this. But if you don't understand some of these fundamental aspects, it's very likely that you'll grow up saying, this is just how the world is. This is especially true with how our interactions with our culture works, and also what our parents teach us as we are growing up. And it's also the same with behavioral traits, by the way. Much of it becomes very hardwired, and we need very deliberate, conscious work with ourselves if we want to change it. So if we don't even understand this, there is very little chance that we are going to do anything else than just continue in the same patterns that has been laid out for us in our formative years. So, as I said, when we approach ourselves and other people, we need to be as aware as possible of selective perceptions, biases, attitudes, etc. that color both ourselves and our thinking and the thinking of other people. Because ultimately we want to have as much of an accurate perception of reality as we can. There is nothing good about being right on a subjective level when being right means that we are objectively wrong. We need to get away from the prestige that we attach to our own perspective. And as I said, we don't know what other people have experienced. We don't know why they have drawn the conclusions that they have. And this is something we have to contend with. And it should cause some humility within ourselves. We really need to fathom what it means that my own perspective is just one perspective in the vast amount of perspective that is around 8 billion perspectives in the world nowadays. It doesn't mean that every perspective is created equally. No. The more you have humbly inquired about your own perspective, your own beliefs, biases, attitudes, etc., all of the things that I just talked about, the more accurate your perspective is likely to be. But it will always be a very limited perspective prone to error, with the limitations that are placed upon us just for being human beings. And to elaborate on this a little further, not only do we only have access to our own experience, when we try to communicate our experience to other people, we only have access to words when we try to communicate it, at least in conversations. We can of course do this through art, through music, etc. And this of course adds other levels of communication, other levels of expressing how we view things. But when we engage someone in a conversation, it is our words and of course our gestures, our tone of voice, but mainly words. And words are incredibly imprecise. We can go a little further with this. We cannot at all be sure that we mean the same things with the same words. And we have different experiences and emotions attached to different words. So I hope you can see how this sort of messes a bit with our ability to communicate with each other. And to add another layer to this, it's very likely that people, at least in some aspects, are lying to themselves. I know that I still lie to myself. Of course, I don't know when I do it, because then I wouldn't be lying to myself anymore. And people can also, of course, be deliberately deceptive, and you don't know which people want to deceive you or not. There is no real objective way of knowing this. Of course, we can get a feel for it. If we develop our intuition more, it will be easier to detect these things. But for most of us, our intuition is very far from perfect. But as you wake up more spiritually, you will sharpen your intuition more. This is a fact in this. But know how much prone to error that you actually are. And even still further, sense data can be interpreted incorrectly. Just think of every time you have thought you saw one thing, but as you move a little bit closer, you soon realize that you were mistaken. What you really saw was something completely else. And so let's take this to the final level, because this is what we're ultimately talking about on this channel. Think of mystical, esoteric, otherworldly experiences, and in general experiences related to religion, to God, to the divine. And think of how far they usually are from our normal, everyday five-sense experience. If I tell you about some incredible ecstatic experience that I've had, For you, this experience cannot be anything other than words and maybe some vague images that these words evoke in you. Think about what this means for our ability to communicate about these things. And yet, if we don't want this to be just a solitary quest not involving any other people, this is exactly what we need to do if we want to witness to other people, if we want to communicate with others based on our experiences, if we think that there is value to subjective personal experience, which, by the way, as I already said, is the only thing that we have direct access to. This is exactly what we need to do. Religion, spirituality, etc. cannot just be an intellectual endeavor. We are not just moving around in the empirical five-sense reality. And this is also a critique that I have about that I can level towards academia today. I know that spirituality is real, that God is real, that there is a spiritual dimension to reality. And yet, in the scientific inquiry, we do not allow for this type of worldview. We are concerned with the five-sense reality alone. And if many of us can know for a fact that this is not all that is to be said for reality, then academia, by definition, excludes all of this in favor of just focusing on what we can approach in the five-sense reality. And I can understand why, because I don't know how to approach subjective experience from an objective standpoint. So this is a hurdle. But I think that we would do good to at least recognize that this is a problem. So, we're talking about subjective experience. At the same time, what is underlying all of this is the assumption that truth is still important. There are both rational arguments for this, and we can intuitively and emotionally feel this, that truth is important as well. And those that don't truly value truth usually seem to suffer from it. People that distort reality either through direct lying or through simply not valuing the truth seem to not fare too well from it. It seems to take them in the wrong direction. This question has also already been implied, but I want to ask it straight out. How can we approach spiritual and religious manner in a way that does not lead to a shouting match with no real common ground to stand on? I don't have a final answer for this, but I think that there are a few things that we can think about if we want to take this in the right direction. So here is my best approach so far, and I probably can build something on it as I move along in my own journey. So talk about what you know. Talk about your own life experiences and the conclusions that you think can be drawn from them. But also, and this is very important, take responsibility for how you do this, for your own role in it. Take responsibility for doing this in a humble manner, where you respect other people's perspectives, but without also compromising with the things that you feel in your heart are true. But accept your limitations, biases, fears, and distortions. And fear is actually a very important driver in all of this. Because, of course, if you fear that a perspective is threatening you in some way, you have a very strong incentive to reject this. But for me at least, this feels like spiritual cowardice. I could be wrong about this, but this is how it feels to me. But anyway, take responsibility for all of these things within yourself, because all of these things distort how you view truth, how you view reality, how you view spirituality, religion, God, and so on. It distorts your perspective. It makes it less likely that you will come closer to objective truth. And if you also don't take these things into account when you discuss with other people, you might very well find yourself in the shouting match that I already mentioned. And no matter how seriously you take your faith, no matter how strong your convictions are, for me, this is not to take these things seriously. You need to wrestle with yourself, wrestle with your beliefs, and not just take things at face value, unless you've thoroughly convinced yourself that you have very good reason for it. And then it's of course not at face value anymore. And that concludes this video. Before I go, I want to urge you to check out my other channel on the place where we can speak more freely. I'm called Everyday Mystic there as well. And that's it for today. If you like this video, please leave a like, leave a comment and share the video on social media and other places. All of it helps the channel to grow. And if you haven't done it already, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so YouTube always notifies you of new videos. And check out the description and the comment section for other things that me and my wife are doing. And other than that, just sincerely thank you for your time.